Hello, everybody. Just a little quick announcement before the video begins that my short story, the first one that I ever wrote, is now published, and it's the first time that I've ever been published after a very long period of brutal rejection and continued rejection. So I'm very excited that this is published. It's up on a Substack that is run by The Bullpen. It's the name of the project. It is a bunch of lesbians writing and creating the thing itself. So if you want to read it, you can do so by clicking the link. And I believe there's a way you can interact with me on there, but I'm not sure. So thank you so much. Let's begin the video. Hello and welcome to this video in which we use the coffee ranking scale to see if we can find you your next book. Now, today, all of the books that I have to show you, all 5 of them, are really small. Look how short they all are. Tiny. This is a really fun way to read books, I find, especially if your brain is completely fried. A nice little short book can help you out. So, really quickly, let's talk about the coffee scale, which is used to tailor the book review to your taste, potentially. So, we all have different taste in books. So this is to help us find out where we are and what we might like to read. Also, ignore the staring that is going on. I said that they could do anything they wanted, and they have been watching me like a hawk lately. I think they have separation anxiety. So just ignore them. Okay, the coffee scale. This is the second time that we're doing this. The first time I got a really good comment was somebody saying that light roast as a coffee is complex. So that calls into question if I'm describing dark roast books as complex or dark roast in general as complex. So we went back to the drawing board, and I think you'll like this version. Okay, let's get into what it is. For light roast books, the flavors of the books are immediate. They're bright, they're very vibrant, they're very present, which leads to faster read times. The ideas of the book are readily apparent. The craft of writing is in its smoothness. In light roast books, everything is said. You're given everything you need to know. So, these are your books like Stephen King. You pick up the book. The craft of the writing is to make sure that you just sail through the story, and it's not awkward, it's not amateurish, it's well observed. So it hits like reality in such a way that it's just a kind of wow, a beach read. Everything is present, and there's nothing really hidden from you symbolically. The plot happens, there it is. Medium roast. This is kind of the Goldilocks zone. So if you don't know someone's taste, these books are really good just to give us gifts because they're fantastic. This tends to be a lot of contemporary literary fiction, but here you have these kind of rich and considered notes. The craft of subtler language appears as part of the flavor profile, which says things without saying. So here you start getting a kind of writing that's more metaphorical, is more poetic. It's describing one thing, like the petals falling off a flower, clearly as a way to talk about the mental state of a character instead. So this requires a little bit slower read time, but not too much. But you get that subtler language, you know? Okay, dark. Now you've got books where there's kind of a high literary heat that has been applied. This leads to slower read times. Full ideas become apparent only through careful analysis. The notes of these books are sometimes the things that are not said at all. So these are your thickums, the kind of very dense, where you might have very layered characters, where they're functioning highly symbolically, but we have to tease that out. So we've all encountered a dark roast book at one time or another where things are not obvious and you really gotta tease things apart. So that's the scale. All of these books are represented here, and I think I'm going to talk about them in order of light to dark so you can kind of get a sense. So you see that the size of the book or the length of the book has nothing to do with how immediate it can be or how dense it can be. It just depends on the style of the author. So let's see if your next read is in this by using this coffee scale. I realized I forgot to hold up the 5th book, so I was just holding up 4 books while I said that there was 5. So please allow me to introduce the light roast book. This is Tokyo Express by Saisho Matsumoto. How pretty is this freaking cover? So I think this book has a different title in the original Japanese. I think it's Points and Lines. But Penguin published it under Tokyo Express. Who might like this book and why? This book is a classic light roast book. It's a mystery. It's a whodunit. A couple or a man and woman are discovered on a beach, and the detectives have to figure out who murdered them. I actually read this with these two, the boy and Squincy, and we could not figure out who done it until the book told us who done it, because this has almost nothing to do with personality of the characters. The crime is solved through the solving of a puzzle that involves information, which is very interesting. It involves what is left on a receipt or the times on a train timetable. So the scheduling of trains, it's a puzzle of data. And there's something quite fascinating about data itself, something as mundane as a receipt or a train time, giving away the perpetrator of a complex crime. So if you like puzzles, this is a book for you. There's not much to interpret. It's just, can you figure out based on the data? If you like a more personality drama where the plot, you're really sucked into it because of who people are and people's personality, that's not in here. This book was written in the 50s. I believe it was written in sections for a magazine, but it's got that very 50s but also very Japanese way of writing, which is quite satisfying. I actually pictured this like a movie. It was very easy to picture like a kind of slower, almost black and white kind of noir detective film in my head. But readers who like a little bit more complex personality development might be disappointed. This is for the lover of trains, if you love trains and train timetables. If you like kind of sober detectives, and if you just like that 50s vibe. Of course, one must be prepared for the way that women are described in a book like this. They're just like straight out of the like cookie jar of just pre-made. You know exactly. Like the second you think about like the female protagonists in like a 50s noir, a cinematic image might come to mind. So people are very like archetypes in this book, but this was a breeze to read. and it was kind of interesting. I never read anything like it. So this is a light roast. Everything that happens is in here. There's nothing left for interpretation. It's just a puzzle, a whodunit kind of puzzle. The next book, which I would plot, if that was a light roast, I would plot this as medium, but almost like leaning a little bit to light. So this is like my medium light roast, my light medium roast. This book is called Clear by Carys Davies. Really nice little cover, quite moody. So this book I had to put in the medium category because what begins as a light roast book where everything seems as it is starts to become a lot more complicated, and language and what is said and not said starts to become a driving force of the narrative power of the book. This is about a guy, Ivor. He is all alone on an island up in Scotland, and this book takes place in like the 1800s during a period I did not know about, which is the Highland Clearances. The Highland Clearances. I had no idea this kind of messed up history where people in Scotland up in the Highlands were cleared away from their land over a long period of time by landlords who wanted to use the land for profitable ventures such as sheep farming. So people were cleared away so that all this land could be used for whatever money-making scheme. Very sad, very tragic history. So this book involves the guy who's on his island and the man who has come to clear him off of it. I can't really say much else without giving away the plot, but it has a twist that left me a little bit stunned. The relationship between the two men who cannot speak the same language really took me by surprise. It's a lot more intimate and subtle than we're kind of initially set up into thinking that it would be. I don't regret reading this book. I learned so much from it in the historical sense. And then the way that she used language from these dead languages really blew me away. Specifically, Norn and her writing style is very delicate and subtle because we see the nuances of the relationship between these men. And it kind of blew me away. So this is a light medium roast. If you like that kind of natural landscape writing and these kind of the psychological profiles of these people in a time that has long since gone, this might be for you. I will say, I mean, the twist at the end seems to be only minimally divisive, because I had to look on Goodreads. It was one of those books that I was like immediately had to Google because I was like, whoa. And it's really interesting to see people's reactions to this. And I can't leave this review without saying one small thing, which is that there is a single sentence at the very end of the book which concerns the fate of some of the animals on the island. That sentence made me cry. I didn't like it. And it almost, like, for a few hours, it made me be like, I didn't want to read this book. Like, I shouldn't have read this book because I'm very sensitive to things like that. But, like, a day later, I thought, as much as I hated that sentence, and I hated the choice, it was also like real historical things happen that are deeply uncomfortable concerning the fate of the humans and the animal life cleared from their homes to make room for something artificial or, right, like capitalist. So my discomfort at reading that sentence is just one drop in the bucket of what is a deeper, darker reality of what really occurred. And I did think, no, I'm glad I read this book. I'm just very sensitive to things happen to animals. So, be warned. Book number 3 out of 5 is a book firmly in the medium roast category. I could not put this book down. I read it when I was doing dishes. I read it on the train. It's one of those that I was like itching to get back to when I wasn't reading it, which is a great sign. This is Assembly by Natasha Brown. I was stuck thinking about this book, like as I was reading it, after I was reading it, right now. This is about a woman, or so our narrator, the voice in this book, is a black woman who works in London. She works in banking, and she is wrestling with the tension of being who she is and working in banking, but she's also got this boyfriend who has a trust fund. So his type of wealth is inherited. He has heritage, he has British lineage, and he has the prestige that goes with it. And she has this new money that comes from working in banking and essentially destroying her soul in order to do it. And the book is in 2 parts. The first part, we're with her as she's wrestling with all of these things in her life and not being wanted and being wanted, and immigration attitudes here in the UK, and her resistance to her boyfriend, and a kind of horror at the thought of going away to spend a weekend at his family's estate. Part 2 is her arriving at his family's estate as they set up for a party. I was with our narrator the whole time because she captures this really like icky, gross feeling of having that kind of job, and also attitude towards immigrants in this country, and not even just immigrants, the descendants of immigrants here, which is just incredibly difficult to even wrap your head around the stupidity and the hypocrisy of these attitudes and these beliefs. But she's dealing with it in such a personal way. Everything is captured in her relationship with this guy, who's just kind of like, her writing is gorgeous. We go in these scenes that seemingly have nothing to do with the plot, but they're so emotional that you just get it. It's so poetic. She says things without saying them, and then she says them in the most spot-on, bone-chilling way. This took my breath away. Assembly by Natasha Brown. This is one of those, I'm not going to donate this book, like, ever. This stays with me. Next on the list, we have 2 dark roast books. One of them, The Darkest of the Dark. Let's start with our classic dark roast book. Alright? Also a joy to read. This was The Last Wolf by Laszlo Krasnohorkai. Really short. Also, I love this cover. It's super cool, kind of shiny, claw marks. Heck yeah, pre-metal. Love this. So, this is a brilliant dark roast book. Laszlo Krasnohorkai won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He tends to write either in like mostly one long sentence where there's no periods. You get a lot of absurdism, really dark comedy, nihilism, just wonderful. If you like both a kind of more complex style of writing, a lot of symbolism, but also that kind of dark humor, you might really like this book. This book also involves animals. It's about hunting and trapping of wild animals. It focuses on a kind of washed up academic who has lost all incentive to think thoughts or write or do anything, who is mistakenly or not mistakenly invited to Extremadura in Spain to write an article about the land. And it ends up being this story about the last wolf was exterminated in Extremadura. So it ends up being the story of the last wolf. The last wolf is followed by two kind of minor stories that form this kind of constellation with the last wolf. And together, it's like 3 vantage points on this situation of who did this, like why are all the wolves gone in this place, and the person responsible or the persons responsible. And it's just about the voidscape of extermination, of exploitation of a town, losing one's identity to tourism, and just the contemporary world, and the sense of just deep loss and greed, and of course the comparison is the human animal, the natural animals, and this sense of just mindless killing. So there's really a lot of connections to be made. There's a lot that is not explicitly stated, but becomes very clear when you finish all 3 vantage points. And I left this book with a lot to think about and a lot more questions than are necessarily even anything that's brought up in the plot. And just this overwhelming sense of like, ooh, I like that. So that was a Dark Roast book. Let's look at our last Dark Roast book. This is, I would say, like extra dark, even though it's gorgeous and very, very small. Oh yeah. Let's talk about this one. Let's see, maybe you're interested in The Journey to the East. The Journey to the East. That E is like Hesse, but also people say Hess. I don't, maybe it's an English thing, but anyway, A Journey to the East. This book threw me for a loop because I'm gonna be honest with you, at first I didn't like it. It is about a protagonist whose initials are HH, I wonder. He is in this league with other people like artists and, you know, like people who are dead. It's like if you put Plato in a room with like Pythagoras and some famous painters and Renaissance thinkers, and it's just, for some reason that kind of icks me out. But he tells this tale of going on foot with all these people to each find their individual truth, something that they're seeking, and they go on foot. They reject trains and the trappings of modernity to go on this journey, and they go through time. So they go through like the Middle Ages and stuff, and it's very ungrounded and fluff writing. And I didn't get it until he switches it up, and we are no longer on the journey to the East, and we are with this protagonist in the present time who is soberly thinking that the journey, he's saying that it fell apart completely and people started fighting and it's over and he's not in this group anymore, and he doesn't even know if the group still exists, and he might even be the only one left to tell the tale. When we got to that section of this book, I immediately felt like the slam. It was like supposed to be this incredible Narnia book of woo-woo dreaming, and it slammed shut on us. And we are left with this cynical, egotistical protagonist, and we face the consequences of that with him. Like, he is remembering this journey as in this kind of idealistic way, and he has fallen off the journey, and it's a deep allegorical kind of cautionary tale about the consequences of losing one's vision, to become cynical, to become a bit self-centered, and to have this sense of ownership over something and proclaim the death of something, that something might have never even existed. At the ending of the book, we're kind of reunited with this fantasy place. And when the book was over, I was left with so many emotions. There's an essay in the beginning of this book, in this edition, that helped me kind of process what I was feeling, because it has themes that I've even talked about on this channel before. I have watched people that I look up to, either they're artists or they're academics, who just, because of wear and tear, they become cynical and they kind of turn their back on everybody else. And in their seat, clinging to their seat of authority, they dare tell everyone else that it's all over. It's like when people make it to the finish line and then they give advice to younger people and they say, don't even try. It's horrible, right? It's now you're gonna get disillusioned, kid. And just that grotesque show of ownership and discouragement and this sense of like it's all doomed. Everything's doomed. And when you lose, like, these people wouldn't even recognize God if like God was staring at them in the face. And that's a very kind of classic archetype of a person who's lost their way. You know, when the angels come knocking on the door and you give them food or you don't, do you turn them away because you're so full of mistrust for humanity? It's very that. And the book really just swung in these different motions, and it's tiny. But I didn't get it until right when I got it. And then when I got it, I was like, oh my God, is this not the tale of what it means to be an artist? What it means to create anything? And the vulnerability and the rawness and how easy it is to lose your way. The Journey to the East. What a story. I had no idea, but I was sitting on this ride and it was just like whiplash. I loved reading this book. It just made me think a lot about where I've been at mentally and creatively. I adore it. I think it was just amazing, but absolute dark roast. It was like layer upon layer, and I was getting irritated and frustrated with layer number 1. But the book itself is about seeing deeper and being deeper than that first bus stop. Like, you cannot get off on the first bus stop with this book. You cannot rely on it to give you everything that you need up front, and that's kind of the point. If dark roast category is like high literary heat applied to concepts such that they are transformed radically into something that like you have to really root around for the original concept because it's been so like chemicalized into something new, this is the prime example of like what a dark roast book can do. It's tiny, but it is compressed down into an allegorical story that is both magical and quite dark and sobering. I recommend this book. Yeah, I loved it. Here we have them. 5 books that cover a really great range of what literature can do and its many different manifestations. We've got light roast books that like it is what it is. We've got a whodunit, all the way to these kind of human stories, a little bit inside, a little bit external, and then dark roast, where these really big themes about humanity, the state of our ego, how we relate to the world around us, to animals, to humans, really compressed into these singular tales. Wow, I really loved reading all of these in a row. Short books are a really fun way to just, it's like putting your brain through a washing machine, you know what I mean? And tumbling it around. I think it's really good, and I loved reading these. So that's them on the coffee scale. I wonder, maybe you found something that you might be interested in reading. Maybe you have a certain flavor preference, a certain roast preference. I tend to hang out on the medium to dark roast. Those are the books that tend to like give me an epiphany, or kind of like, I like to be a bit knocked backwards when I read something. I like to be like shot to the moon and crash land. I quite like that, and I think that I get that most from medium to dark books. So thank you for being here with me and talking about books, which I love to discuss. I will definitely see you in the next video. Sorry, we will see you in the next video. So we will say good night if you are going to sleep, and if not, then good